questions anytime during my talk. Okay lang yan kasi I prefer conversations talaga. Minsan kasi mas maganda yung labas ng thoughts, ng ideas kapag ganun. So if I said something that's not very clear kasi minsan nagaganon din ako, or if you want to interject, I would appreciate your participation sa dito sa conversation. Okay,
All
pwede
right.
kayo mag-comment, wala akong pake. Sige lang, okay lang yan.
Okay, Sir DJ. So now we're live on Facebook na po. So let's
Alright.
start na. So Mr. M, can you
Hi,
introduce our speaker?
good evening, everyone. Good evening, Ms. Gladys, and good afternoon, Middle East. And we're privileged again to have Lee Tesos from World Education Review Center, World English rather,
World
to
English.
have his lecture for today. Sir Lee.
Yes, hello, good evening. So I'm happy to be to be of service to you again. So tonight I want to share, something a little bit different. I know you've had a lot of guests, a lot of experts here on your page, but I want to share, things that not many of them share with you. Okay, because most of them teach you about speaking techniques, or how to pass the writing test, how to get a higher score in the listening test, how improve your reading scores. But tonight I'm gonna cover a little bit of that. But what I want to focus on are more of, how to pass your test on the first take, not on the second one, not on the third one, not on the first one, not on the fourth one, but the very first time that you take it. Because it is my belief that nobody needs to repeat the test. I mean, for us who are not so fortunate, not so financially fortunate in life, 11,000, 11,000 pesos, 12,000 pesos is actually quite a good chunk of our money. For some people, that's a month's salary already. Swerte kayo if that's only your. Oh, nice. Hello, little boy. Let me mute Chell. Okay, and
Hi. Guys, kindly
yeah.
mute your microphone. Thank you.
Yes, accidentally lang yan, it happens. So, I'd like to share yun nga, mga tips and techniques so that you don't need to waste your money. Okay? Kasi, mahirap maghanap ng pera. Okay? But for the first timers pala, I forgot to introduce myself. So, mabilis na introduction lang. Okay, which one should I use? Okay, I'm gonna use this one, our previous PowerPoint. Okay, never mind the date. Okay. So this is me, quick introduction. I started teaching in 2005. So I've been doing it for about 16 years now. I feel old. So I teach Ielts. I also teach OET, the Occupational English Test. In fact, I was a former interlocutor. Okay, I interviewed candidates for about 2 years, or less than 2 years, okay, before the pandemic hit. I also teach English subjects and the civil service exam because I took the test in 2010 and I passed it on the first try. I've also done some side jobs for a call center. Okay, so I've trained newly hired employees for call center language training. I've taken my IELTS, of course, several times actually, and my overall score is 9. I have a civil service eligibility, of course, but I haven't used it yet. I haven't worked for the government yet. And I think more importantly, I have a Cambridge CELTA qualification. So this is a very expensive course. It's actually about $2,000 for 5 weeks. Okay, I took it in Australia, and but it is accredited by Cambridge University in the UK, and very few people in the Philippines has this kind of certification. But our company, dalawa kaming meron yan. Myself and this guy, Sir Barry, who's gonna be a very important person soon. Malapit na. And one thing you need to know about me, okay? Obviously, I'm not blonde. Okay, my hair is black. Don't have a British accent. Don't have an American accent also. Maybe just a neutral accent. But I was still able to achieve a perfect score, in speaking, and a perfect overall score. So kung ginaya ko yan, kaya nyo rin yan. Okay, pangit-pangit ng boses ko, naka-9 ako, kayo pa. Okay, I've had some students who had better voices than I do. Okay, so kayang-kaya po yan. So that's me. Okay, now that you know my qualifications, let's move on to my tips for you. So today's short talk will cover these topics. Okay. I will make this document available to you. All right. Okay. So what are we gonna talk about today? So effective study techniques for IELTS and other English tests. Now the title might sound boring, okay, because whenever we hear these kinds of things, study techniques, okay, parang ano we go back to high school or university and medyo our brain shuts down a little bit, okay, because we're afraid of the technical terms. But you know what? I think this is what most people are lacking. This is candidates pala, okay, and this is what most review centers are lacking. Why? Because they only teach you about the format of the test. Okay, tell me if this is true. You can comment just a chat box or on FB. So, have you studied with the review center and then all they did was to give you a drill, listening drill. Then here are the answers. Okay, nakailang points kayo? You got 25 points. Yay. Okay, here's another listening. Here's another listening drill. Ganun lang, no? Or here's a reading drill. Ito yung sagot. Next reading drill ulit. I know a lot of centers who operate like that. Okay, that's not really teaching. I mean, if that's what you paid for, then you wasted your money. You could have done it yourself. Okay, the nice thing about these times is there's so much available material on the internet. Okay, in fact, you can almost self-study for the IELTS. Well, I'm saying almost because you can do that to a certain extent for listening and reading, but it's gonna be a bit more challenging to self-study for speaking and writing. It's gonna be very hard actually. Okay, but it depends on your language ability, of course. Depende naman po yan sa tao. So anyway, I'm gonna teach you time management skill. Okay, time management hacks and tricks and approaches, study methods. Then, if we have time, okay, I'll try to make time for it. I'll teach you things about listening, reading, writing, and speaking that you probably haven't heard from anyone else. Probably. Okay? I'm not discounting the idea that some people might have thought of these, pero taken all of them together, okay, this will be the first time yet that you will hear most of these things because you know uh, uh, today I spent and for the past 2 days actually I just spent a lot of time thinking about what to tell you. Okay, because you don't need to know the format of listening, reading, writing, speaking because you can just download the brochure from britishcouncil.org. Okay, and it will tell you listening is 30 minutes plus 10 minutes transfer time. There are 40 questions. There are 4 sections. Dude, that information is available online. So I wanted to teach you something that you will not see on websites that you probably haven't heard from other teachers. Okay ba yon? Gusto natin yon? Yes? Magparamdam nga kayo sa chat para lang so that I don't feel alone. Okay, thank you very much. Thank for the thumbs up. Okay, thank you din sa mga nanonood sa FB Live. So, let's start with time management. Okay, please focus. Bakit? Malamang ito yung kulang ninyo. And if you think that a tip helped you, i-comment nyo lang dyan. Kung sa palagay nyo, oy, okay yun di ko ginagawa yun, o kaya mali pala yung approach ko. Okay? So the first thing that you need to do is this one. This sounds simple pero hindi ginagawa ng mga tao. First of all, you want to succeed in passing your IELTS, I don't care anong test yan, by the way, OET, civil service, nursing board exams, any test, okay, in the international test certification, you really want to get it, you get your calendar and then you set a date. Okay? Choose a date when you will pass the test. Okay, sir, that's overconfident yun. Hindi yun overconfident. Okay, that's called visualization. You want something, okay, you want to pass the IELTS, pero nag-enroll ka, but you enrolled in an unlimited review program. Why? Because, sir, I don't know when I'm gonna be prepared. You know what? You might not ever become prepared. Okay. Do you want to become successful by November 2021? Okay, or before Christmas? Do you want to leave the country by October 2021? Or is it okay if you just go to the UK 2024 or 2025? Okay, because that's what it does to you. When you choose something that's unlimited so that I can take my time and be ready, you might not be ready ever. Okay, so please, and please don't be tentative. Maybe end of this year, start of next year. No, at the very least, choose a month. Okay, why? Because there needs to be a little bit of pressure. Hindi pwedeng tsaka na bahala na. Kasi Filipinos are well known for that for that approach bahala na. But I've encountered German students. My God, Germans, amazing people. Bakit? They never take the test if they're not sure about what they're doing. Before they take the test, you know what? They already know what score they're gonna get. Ganun sila ka-OC. Hindi katulad natin, busy kasi ako sa trabaho. I'm busy at work. So, I'm just gonna take it when I'm ready. You'll never be ready. That's why I don't believe in unlimited programs because they tend to have a bad influence. And I'm not doing this to promote our company or say bad things about any other company as an educator lang. Okay, I'm very comfortable with what I've achieved so far, and I don't need to do that anymore. Usually, it's just the younger teachers who do that. There, I don't. I'm pretty established. I'm confident with myself. Okay, so going back to you, set a date. Okay, sir, I might not be ready by July. When the date approaches, then just maybe move it once. But please don't keep on moving it. If you move it like 10 times in a year, then that's the same as having no target. So it seems very simple. But let me ask you, our audience, all of you, okay, on Facebook, on here in our Zoom meeting room, have you actually set a date? Congratulations for those who have. Okay, galing galing, very good. That's good for you. Okay, because now you just increase your chances of success. Okay, and you can actually do this for any goal that you have in life. A lot of us say, I want to be a millionaire. Okay, but when do you want to be a millionaire? Do you want to be a millionaire when you're 30 or when you're 60 or when you're 80? Or when you die dahil may insurance kayo and then your insurance will pay out 1 million. Kaso, you won't enjoy it anymore, right? Well, at least your descendants will enjoy it. Okay, so have you actually set have you actually set a date? Okay. So if you haven't, it might be a good idea to do it right after this session before you sleep so that your brain can start turning it into reality. Okay? Tsaka alam nyo, pag di kayo nag-set ng date, tatama rin kayo. Okay? You will find a lot of excuses to skip your study. Okay? You will find a lot of excuses not to learn or just go drinking maybe or just get some sleep. Why? Kasi you don't have a date. There's no deadline. Okay? Success needs a deadline. You have to remember that. So that's tip number one. I hope you've done it. If you haven't, well, the best time to do it is now or maybe after our session. Okay? Next, if you're really serious about what you're doing, so nag-set ka ng date, di ba? The next thing that you do is, uh, what would be a good word? Blog. Blog pangit naman. You track your efforts. Okay? What do I mean by track your efforts? Okay, you're spending a lot of money. Okay, well, hopefully for some of you not that much. Okay, you're spending money to review, but more than the money, you're spending a lot of time to review. You could be resting, you could be enjoying your time with family, you could be watching the new Samurai X movie that came out. I watched it last night. Okay, you might be, you might want to spend your time binging on Netflix. Okay, but here you are preparing for your IELTS test, taking a lot of time out of your personal time. But do you know how much effort you're expending? For instance, how many of you know how many hours did you spend last week? Okay, last week for the past 7 days. Okay, how many hours did you spend working on your IELTS drills and maybe on improving your English skills? If you don't know, then you are wasting your effort. You know what? Companies, they always track their employees, di ba? May mga punch card kayo, you time in and you time out. Okay, you always log in your hours. Okay, they all have all sorts of systems for tracking your attendance. If companies do it, then there must be something to it. Okay, if companies do it, it's making them money. So it means it's effective. So kayo, are you being effective in what you're doing? Oh, sir, last week I spent a lot of time reviewing for my IELTS. Really? How many hours? Mm. Most of us can answer how many days, sir. Maybe 2 days, maybe 3 days. Okay. But if I ask you how many hours, remember, you have 24 hours in a day. So how much time are you willing to, to invest out of the 24 hours? To turn your salary from 20,000 a month, ganun ba yung sweldo ng mga nurses? Are you earning that much? Well, in the Philippines, no, I think in the Middle East, it's much higher. Magkano ba sa Middle East, yung minimum wage? Are you earning like 100K or something? Sana all lumapak ng 20. Hindi ba? I thought that government nurses were earning like 30,000 a month, right? That's what I heard. I'm not a nurse, so I don't know. Okay. So hindi. Oh, all right. That's a bit sad. All right. So anyway, so in your 24 hours a day, how much time are you willing to turn that 15,000, that 40,000, that 60,000 pesos? We're talking pesos because I'm Filipino. Okay. How much time are you willing to invest to turn it into like maybe magkano ba sa UK? Ah, I don't know, 140,000. I think the Australia has the highest minimum wage, mga 180 or 190 a month, I think, something like that. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not updated with my figures. Okay, pero it's definitely gonna be more than what you're earning right now. So, are you willing to invest? Ito, someone here in our chat box said, private hospital in the province, 12K. So, won't you like to turn that 12K into, I don't know, like 120? Ayun, yun yata yung sa UK. Base pay 120, I think. Okay. Are you willing to invest 1 hour out of the 24 to turn it from 12 to 120? That's times 10 your salary. Okay? Kasi a lot of us think that we're already investing a lot of time. But if you track it, you will realize, hindi pala, parang, oh my God, last week pala, 3 hours lang akong 3 hours lang ako nag-review. I did one listening test, one reading drill, and then I tried writing one essay, but it took me an hour. So I spent 3 hours lang. Oh my God. 3 hours out of 24 times 7. How many hours do we have in 1 week? Dami. Diba? I'm not a math expert. But compute it, 24 times 7. Oh, ilan yun? It's gonna be what, 140, 150, mga ganon, around that much. So you only invested 3 hours out of 140 plus, and then you expect to succeed. Maybe it's not gonna work. So now, how are you gonna do this effectively? Simple lang. Do you have one of those Starbucks or coffee bean and tea leaf planners that you only use for 2 weeks? That's me. Okay, parang ako yun. Okay, you spend a lot of money on coffee just to get those planners, and then you only use it for 1 or 2 months. Okay? Oh yeah, oh man. I shouldn't have asked, no? Parang nalungkot itong session natin. Pero hindi eh. It should be an inspiration for you. 12K lang natanggap mo ngayon. Don't you want to turn that into 120 in 6 months from now? 129 bis na 12K. Okay? If they don't appreciate you, time to bring your talents to, somebody who will. Ganun lang naman yan. Okay? So, if you have one of those unused planners or any notebook, any blank, oh sorry, you can't see it. Okay, it's just a blank notebook here. Okay? You can use any notebook or, one of those planners, and then make sure that you have an entry every day. Do you want me to show you a sample? Okay, here's an example now. Okay, so kunwari, let's pretend that this is a page from my planner. So date today is June 19. So you write 19 June. Okay, please notice I didn't write June 19. I wrote 19 June because that's how they write dates in the Ielts test and in the other Cambridge English tests, because that's the way that they do it. Most Filipinos are used to the American convention. We write June 19, but in your Ielts exams, the day goes first. So I suggest you also do it like this. So write this down in your notebook. June 19. And then please write whole sentences because this can also be language practice. Okay, you said you write I scored, okay? Uh how many? 31 out of 40, okay? In Cambridge, ano ba yung uso ngayon? Cambridge, I don't know, Cambridge 12, okay? Listening listening test 2. Okay? Yay, congratulations. That's a band 7. Okay? And then 20 June, make sure that you have an entry for every day until you take your test. That's why you need a deadline. Because if you say, I'm gonna take it when I'm ready, baka 2 years ka nang nagaganito, wala pa nangyayari. Okay, so 20 June, okay, I only got, okay, 25 out of 40 in in Cambridge 11. Oops, pardon that. In Cambridge 11, reading test 1 because I was distracted. Pwede. So it sounds like a diary. Okay. In this way, you can actually appreciate how much time you are investing. And this can be as detailed as you want. Okay. For instance, you can say, okay, let's have another entry. No. Uh, okay, 21 June. Okay. From 9 p.m. to 9:45 p.m. Okay, I attended I don't know, a live a live show, a live feed or a live video, okay? A live class, okay? With Pinoy Nurses Group or whatever you call your group, okay? Hindi pala form, it's from. And here's the last one that I'm gonna show you. Okay, form na naman ang sinulat ko. Sorry about that. From. There you go. And here's the last entry I'm gonna show you. Okay, tignan nyo to ah. Hopefully you won't do this a lot in your study diaries. Okay, 22 June. Today, today I was so tired. Okay, from work, from work after a 12-hour shift. Okay, let's not give excuses. This is just an excuse. Sabihin nyo na lang, today I wasn't able to do anything IELTS related. There you go. And it's important that you take note of the days when you're not able to do anything. Yes, it's as important as doing nothing. Ang importante, you're writing it down. Why? This will now serve as your reminder. This will now serve as your inspiration. Okay. Oh, hello to our 107 FP Live viewers and 38 Zoom participants. Okay. Uh, you're very lucky you're attending this one because most review centers don't teach this. Okay. Yeah, because I didn't learn this from other teachers. I just thought about this myself after 16 years of teaching. Okay. So, ayan po. This is what you need to do. Okay. Journal it. Oh, yan, i-journal nyo. Ang dami ng, I'm already doing so many things and then you're gonna ask me to do this. This is just a small sacrifice. It's not even a sacrifice, it's gonna be fun eh. Okay, maliit na bagay lang to kung ang kapalit niya is a change in your life, The way that you're going right now. Here's your life right now. Maybe you're in a bad place, maybe you're in a good place, but it's gonna get, it's gonna get better. Yan, ganyan. This is the path of your life right now. But if you pass your IELTS, what will happen to this? Instead of going like that, pataas naman, no? Of course, we're all gonna progress. Okay, but instead of going up slowly, maybe after taking the IELTS test, whoops, right? Sudden increase, imbis na gradual increase. Parang writing task 1. Okay? So if you really want to succeed, for the newcomers, let me just repeat, no? Choose a test date. Okay? Choose it. Set it already. It doesn't matter if it's next month, 2 months, 3 months from now. It needs to be specific. Okay? Secondly, track your efforts, get an old planner or get any blank notebook and make sure that from day one you are writing down something, even if you didn't do anything for your to improve your English skills. Write it down. Why? It's gonna become a habit. Okay? And it will become second nature to you, and before you know it, you will succeed. Okay? Because as one of my favorite sayings is, success is actually just the accumulation of our habits. Okay? How do you succeed? Look at your habits. Okay, do you have good habits? Then you'll probably reach your goals. You have bad habits, then you will probably reach them at a later date. Oh, di ko sinabing fail at a later date lang. But you want to get it now, di ba? Not later, not 10 years from now, maybe 2 years from now, or maybe next year, right? So that's the number two thing. Would you like me to number them? Okay, para mas madali. So let's set numbers. Yeah. Any questions about this or any thoughts? You can share your thoughts at any time. I appreciate you speaking to me instead of just me yapping here. Okay. Number three, very important, and you probably haven't thought about this. Okay. This this next tip is about something that you live with, something that you probably sleep with, something that's with you every day of your life, not God, not your parents, not your boyfriend or girlfriend. It's your cell phone. So use your phone properly. Hmm. Do you have a nice phone? Yes, 50,000 pesos. Meron kang iPhone 21, mga ganyan. Or meron kang Samsung Galaxy 2000. Nice. How much was your phone? 80,000? 100K? Okay. You actually don't need something that expensive because even a 6,000 peso cell phone o kahit nga 4 or 5 lang okay, would be enough for your purposes. So question, you always have it with you. You never leave home without it. You always keep it charged. If there's something you will not, forget, it's your cell phone. If there's something you cannot live with, it's probably your cell phone. Am I right or am I wrong? If I'm wrong, just tell me. I appreciate hearing that so I can rethink, my ideas. Pero tama ba ako? Yung phone nyo, constant companion nyo na, di ba? Kasi my phone, ganun din naman yung habits ko eh. Okay? Tanong, are you using your phone to help you succeed in your Ielts test? Okay, let me ask you, how many Ielts apps do you have? Meron ba? Okay, and have you been using them? My favorite Ielts apps are, okay, yung luma, okay, one of the older ones is Ielts Prep. You can download these guys. You can go to a Play Store, or Apple Store and then download these. Yung Ielts Prep, it's a bit old, but it's an oldie but goodie. Okay, and then the new one is English Core. Okay, it's by both of these are by British Council, by the way. Okay, my two favorite apps. Okay, next, do you have a dictionary in your phone? My favorite right now is Oxford. Okay, but the other dictionaries work as well. So a good and a reliable dictionary. Do you have these things? Sana meron. Okay. Also, um, ah, does your phone have a voice recorder? Okay, I think the answer to this is yes. Most phones have one. Tanong, have you been? Oh yeah, thank you, Steffi. Okay, that's a very good comment. Sige. Um, next, your phone has a voice recorder. You probably don't know it, okay, but you should have accessed it by this time. Bakit? If you haven't used it, then you're not maximizing it. So use your voice recorder. Okay? What for? Okay? For your speaking practice. Some people use their cameras, di ba? Guys, that's a waste of storage space. Wag na. You just need to record your voice because they don't grade your face in the speaking class. Okay? So di mo kailangan ng filters. Yan, no. They just grade your voice and your speaking ability. So, if you haven't used your voice recorder yet, you're missing out. Okay? Kasi I ask people, okay, what did you do for the past 7 days, for the past week? Okay, for my students na nakikinig, yung mga hindi pa nakipag one-on-one sa akin, pakinggan nyo to. My students from World English, okay? I always ask during the tutorials, what did you do in the last 7 days to improve your speaking? Sir, I watched some videos from YouTube, sir. I watched samples of speaking. Guys, if you watch videos, then you just practice listening. Congratulations, you got better at listening. How about your speaking? Did you actually get better at it? Sir, I went to this website and I read the recent I read, sorry, some past speaking questions. Okay? Oh, congratulations. You improve your reading kasi you read the questions eh. Pero you want to improve your speaking. You need to speak. This is the organ that we use for speaking. Not this, not this, this one. So did you actually open your mouth and speak? Okay? Yes, you did. Where's the proof now? Nasaan yung prueba? Okay? Can you show me the proof that you actually did it? Kasi if there's no recording, it did not happen. Okay? In the court of law, for instance, yung breach of contract, hindi pwedeng verbal lang. Verbal contracts not acceptable. They have to be written down. They have to be signed. They have to be, well, they don't need to be notarized. Actually, mas malakas lang pag may notary. But, something written is already, impactful. So sa speaking ninyo, when you practice it, it needs to be recorded. Otherwise, it's nothing. And finally, for those of you who've recorded your voices, have you actually listened to yourself speaking? Because I know some people who have like 10 recordings of them speaking, but they haven't listened to them. Then it's wasted effort. You just wasted your time. Yes, thank you very much, sir. If it's not documented, it's not done. I think you also follow this in the hospital, no? Documentation, very important. So guys, continue pa nagawa. Please, use your very expensive phone. Okay, use your voice recorder. Record yourself actually speaking and then listen to it. You know what? Ang dami nyo nang mapapansin even without a teacher telling you. You will notice your most common mistakes just by listening. So I'm saving you a lot of money, guys. Okay? You just follow these tips. Okay? You might need less than 5 hours of tutorial now if you follow these properly. Okay? And this is from 16 years of experience teaching. Okay? So, have you used your voice recorder? That's another one. Okay? Secondly, sorry, fourthly na pala, fourthly. Here's my fourth tip to you. Okay? If you want to be able to concentrate on a task, then you need to eliminate distractions. How many of you don't, okay, many of you are self-studying, right? You're forced to because of the pandemic, unfortunately. Okay? How many times have you been interrupted? You're doing a listening drill, then you got distracted because something your phone sounded, something like that. Okay, or what, you're doing a reading drill, you had to stop because your mother forced you to have dinner. Okay, or you're writing an essay, and then your favorite show comes up, and then you start watching, and then you go back to your essay 2 hours later. Naku, nangyari na ba yun sa inyo? Just type yes or give me a thumbs up if you've ever been distracted while you were trying to focus. If you haven't, congratulations. You're so lucky. Ang swerte-swerte ninyo because a lot of my students tell me ang dami daw distractions. Be, pusang ngumingiaw, puppies barking, kids being hyper, okay? Parents being overprotective. Dami. Okay, so ayan, meron nga sa inyo. Oh, roosters. Okay. Oo, tama. Or maybe your sweetheart telling you, ah, no, honey, tara na. Tulog na tayo. Oh, lots of distractions. Okay? So what do you need to do? You need to eliminate your distractions. I'm not telling you to eliminate your romantic partner. Okay, because that's not good. Pero eliminate stuff like what? Okay, like noises. Sir, how can I do that? How can I eliminate noises? By finding the optimal spot in your home, or maybe even outside your home, as long as you're not exposed to COVID. Okay, look where you can have peace and quiet. It might be as simple as staying in your room and then you buy one of those signs na do not disturb, and then making an agreement with your family members that if you put that sign on the doorknob, please, they have to stop disturbing you for at least, gaano ba katagal yung listening test? 40 minutes. Okay? Or maybe for an hour. Okay? Tell them, and if they don't want to listen to you, ganito lang yan, no? Here's the technique. Ayaw ka nilang tigilan. They don't want to give you time to study. Ganito lang sabihin nyo. Okay? Hindi kita papadalan ng dollars. Hindi kita papadalan ng pounds. Alright? Sige. Pag ako nakapuntang abroad, ikaw lang ang walang pasalubong o kaya yung balikbayan box, meron sila lahat, ikaw wala. Kaya tumigil ka muna, I'm doing this for you. Seriously, you can tell them, I'm doing this for, not only for myself, but for us. Kasi if I succeed in this and, my career goes to a better place, then lahat tayo makikinabang. So please give me time to study. Ayun. 'Di ba? Siguro naman they will understand you. Because sometimes we know this in our minds, but we don't do it. Okay, so I hope you're listing down the things that you will know, yeah, that you will do. I hope that by the end of this talk, there's at least one thing that you'll be able to do for yourself. All right. So please eliminate distractions. That's what you need to do. Secondly, someone commented, no, social media distractions. Sige po, i-comment nyo lang yung mga distractions ninyo. There's actually a way to do this. Do you know that you can actually set a reminder for, kunwari, Facebook, to tell you that you've been using Facebook for an hour? My wife does it. Ang galing. Actually, I learned that from her. Okay? Sasabihin ng Facebook, you've been browsing Facebook for 1 hour. And then make a deal with yourself. Tama na. Okay, I'm just gonna do Facebook tomorrow. Okay? Oh, kids. Yeah. So, you can also turn off your notifications or, best ano dito. Do you know that your phone has an airplane mode? Yan po, when you're reviewing, okay, para hindi pumasok yung mga notifications dyan sa games ninyo, sa social media, just put it on airplane mode. Okay, very effective, very simple, very effective. Usually it's one click, boom, airplane mode. No more distractions. Okay? Other things that you can do, okay? Look at your apps. Ano yung mga apps ninyo? How many games do you have there? Okay, ako, I'm guilty of this one. No? Like I love playing games on my phone. I usually have 10 or more sa phone ko. So what I've been doing recently is I limit myself to 5. Okay? Pag umabot na ng 6 yung games ko, I actually remove one of them. Right now, I think I have 4 only. Okay? Very effective. Kasi your time is precious. You don't want to waste it on these things. Okay? Maybe when you're already earning your dream salary, okay, then you can start doing that. But right now, we're adults. We're supposed to know how to make sacrifices. So eliminate your distractions. Okay. How about the kids? Yeah. Ma'am, Ma'am Russell said the kids being so silly. Patay. Hindi ko alam kung anong gagawin dyan. Sir, yung mga ibang natin, admins, do you have any idea what to do about the kids? Kasi medyo mahirap. Oo nga eh. Paano ba to? Give them a phone.
Eliminate the kids.
Eliminate. Wow. I'm scared now. I'm scared. Serial killers? That's how they start. Joke lang. So, teka nga, napaisip tuloy. I wasn't prepared for that. Okay, Ma'am Russell, pinahirapan mo ako. You're giving me a hard time. Kids, distract them. Give them your Nintendo Switch. Okay? I don't know. Maybe some of our audience can share. Or maybe ask your spouse or maybe your lolo and lola to help you out. Maybe that's one of the things that you can do. Okay? So, sorry. Na zero ako pagdating sa kids. Okay, here's a good suggestion. Give them something to do and then give them a reward. Oh, beautiful. So you're actually disciplining your kids while you're preparing for the IELTS so that you can give them a better future. Yes. Give them something to do. Older kids, you can do this easily. And then give them a reward once they do it. Ang mahirap young kids because they have such short attention spans, no? Hindi nila kaya yung 1 hour eh. Okay? Oh my God, ang galing naman nito. When I was reviewing, I deactivated all my social media accounts except Messenger. That's a bit extreme for me, but you know what? If it works for you, if it helps you succeed, go ahead. Okay? So, you know, hindi naman kailangang extreme as long as it helps you. If it helps you 10%, that's actually okay. Di ba? Then you're gonna get used to it. Pwede nyo nang dagdagan. Yan. So, eliminate your distractions. Sometimes your distractions are your friends. They always invite you to drink. Lalo na yung mga bata-bata dyan. Inom-inom. Alright? Siguro I'm not telling you to stop drinking. That's your prerogative. Pero ganito, if you spend like 5 hours a week getting drunk, maybe you can limit it to, I don't know, 2.5 hours, kalahati. Suggestions for the kids, wait until they sleep. Hopefully, they go to sleep early. Okay, but sometimes, tired parents, mas nauuna pa kayong matulog bago yung kids. yung kapatid ko, ganyan, nauna pa matulog sa bata. Okay, kasi pagod na pagod na. So, if your friends are the ones that distract you, maybe you need better friends. Okay, because pinipilit ka nila, tsaka na yan, pare, tsaka na mag-review. Papasa ka rin naman dyan, special location to. Maybe they're not the best for you. Sabi nga nila, di ba? Okay, tell me your tell me about the 5 people that you spend the most time with. Di ba? The combination of these 5 people, ikaw yun. The 5 people that you always spend time with. I-combine mo sila, ikaw daw yun. Sabi ng isang guru na na nakita ko. Alright? Do I believe that? There's some truth in it. Actually, you want to be successful, you should be around successful people. You want to be healthy? Okay, you can do that if you're around fat people. Okay? Unless meron silang congenital disease, of course. But if it's their habits that make them like that, maybe you should stay away from them. Okay? Like, we tried being vegetarian, pero, sometimes people, hindi, tinanggal ko na yung chicharon. Pwede na yan. Ako, patay. They don't understand that, you cannot eat anything that has meat in it. So maybe just avoid them. Yun lang naman yung magagawa mo. Sabi ng isa dito, unfriend them. Naku, maybe until you pass your test. Sa bagay, pag nabalitaan nila, when they hear that you pass your test, they're gonna be the one to find you. In fact, guys, when you pass your Ielts test and then when you start posting, thanks God, I passed my Ielts, you will notice that your friends will double and your relatives will triple. Okay? Yung tambay dun sa kanto, magiging pinsan nyo. Okay. Sasabihin, pinsan. Alright? Yan. So, I hope I hope I'm not overstepping, no? Because I know that you came here for IELTS stuff and I'm still gonna give you that. But I think these are important things because sometimes we forget these eh. Nakakalimutan natin yan eh. Okay? Sabi nga nung isang manong, okay, pag hindi sila mabuting impluensya, barilin nyo. De, joke lang. Huwag niyong barilin. Not a good thing to do. Okay? So, ayun po, look at your phone. Look at your phone. How much useless stuff do you have there? Remove them. Okay? For the meantime, focus on your test. You can do all of that shit when you're successful. Okay? Next. my fifth study advice here is choose your mentors. Very important. Okay? It's like the BI friends. Okay? It's like being with successful people. Ganito lang yan. Do you want some of you might not need a teacher. Or some of you might need a teacher for only 2 hours. Yes, I've had students na 2 hours lang pumasa sila sa test nila, but they had very good skills already and they had very good habits. Okay? So, choose the people that you listen to. There's so much information right now online. And then so many people pretending to be, experts. Okay. Tanong nyo lang ganito. Have you taken your IELTS test? Usually naman, yes ang sagot yan. Yes, they've taken it. So what did you get? You got 9? What's your proof? Ganun lang yan eh. When you're buying your shoes and your Jordans and your sneakers and ano ba yung mga paborito nyong bilhin, yung mga handbags ninyo, yung mga branded clothing ninyo, jewelry, your cell phones ninyo, you're so OC about it, no? Yung mga lalaki, pag bumibili ng kotse, naku, 3 buwan na nagre-research yan, kailangan test drive. Okay, if you're that OC with the stuff that you buy, dapat ganun din kayo sa review. I mean, there's so many review centers claiming we are number one. So I've seen like over a dozen number one review centers. They're always number one. Okay, kami na lang number two. Okay, so many centers claiming to be number one. Pero ganito yan eh. Just because are 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 their claims true? Are they verifiable? Be careful about review centers telling you we have a 100% passing rate. So, tanong, or we have a 95.6 pass rate. Pero if they've had that pass rate for the past 8 years, isn't that a bit weird? It didn't change in 8 years. 12 years ng 95% yung passing rate mo. Be careful about false claims because right now anybody can make those claims. Ang importante, you're listening to trusted, reliable sources. Here's another question. Would you like to learn from somebody who got 7 or from somebody who got 9? Okay? Of course, there are other factors to consider, pero that's actually a big factor, di ba? Kasi I've had some applicants, some teachers who have applied to our company. I always ask for their TRF first. In fact, one of the candidates, tinanong ko, where's your TRF? Sir, what's TRF? Sabi ko, sir, you told me you've been teaching for a year. Why you should know what a TRF is, a test report form, right? Sabi, sir, my results. Hey, sir, I didn't bring it there. But I can tell you my scores. Okay, what were your scores? So okay naman, I got 8 in my listening, I got 7.5 in my reading, I got 7 in my speaking, I got 6.5 in my writing. Okay. Pero di ba, no, most nurses, they need a 7 in writing. Yes, sir, you only got 6.5, you're teaching them how to get 7. Your company allowed you to do this because he came from another company. Yes, sir, carry naman. Dude, carry naman is not a good answer. And obviously, I didn't hire that teacher. I don't like those kinds of answers. Carry naman. No, we have a moral responsibility to our students to help them. Okay? You're telling someone how to get a 7, you should be able to get that easily. Okay? Of course, not all teachers need to have a 9. That's gonna be very difficult naman. Okay? Wala na magtuturo. But, at least 8 in speaking and in writing and at least 8.5 in listening and reading, because you know what, when you apply as an IELTS examiner, they only require you to get, kunwari, if you apply as a speaking examiner, British Council and IDP will only require you to get 9 in speaking and then the rest can be 8.5. Pwede ka na pala maging examiner pag ganun. 8.5, 8.5, 8.5, then 9 in speaking. Yes. If you're applying as a writing examiner, then you need to get a 9 in writing and then pwede na yung 8.5 the rest. O kaya? Are you now interested in being an examiner? Do you want to know how much they get paid? Chismis, no? Okay. As far as I know, I think it's 500 per interview. Okay, so compute nyo na lang. Okay, if they interview people, 20 people in a day, that's about 10,000 in one day. Sarap. Okay. 25, no. I think the maximum number of candidates one examiner can interview in a day is about 24 during provincial exams. Okay, provincial exams. But in Manila, most examiners are given a limit of 20 lang. 20 lang. Okay? So laki no, para silang nasa Australia. Sarap. So you work for 8 hours once a week. Meron kang 40,000. Okay? By working 4 days. Sorry, meron kang 40,000 4 days. Sarap. Yes, 15 minutes. No, guys, the speaking test maximum is only 14 minutes. It cannot exceed 14. Hanggang 14 lang yan. 11 to 14 minutes for the speaking test. So 500 pesos for 14 minutes. It's a nice job, right? Okay? Sarap. So, guys, going back. Okay, choose the people that you're listening to. No, choose a good mentor. You don't need a lot. You don't need like 3, 4, or 5 mentors. You only need 1 or 2. That's about it. Make sure that they're highly qualified. Make sure that they know what they're doing. And don't base your choices on the price, no? Kasi you get the quality that you're willing to pay for. Okay, somebody's offering you, okay, you'll get a 9. You just pay me 1.5. I will teach you how to get a 9. Magdududa ako. Okay, because the best teachers I know, they usually charge what, 1,000 an hour. Okay, pero that's overseas. I know this teacher. I know this teacher in the Middle East. Okay, foreigner obviously. Okay, she has a Delta. You know what a Delta is? Delta is the next level of the Delta. It's like a master's degree for teaching English. Okay, diploma in English language teaching for adults. Okay, it's a very difficult course. Okay, she has a Delta, and she was charging $100 an hour. Okay, but her clients were Arabs, mga Arabo. Okay, I told her, how did you manage to get those things? Well, all of them complain at first, but then I tell them, okay, you get a cheap teacher for $10 an hour, and then when you fail, you come to me. Okay, so grabe, the queen of IELTS in the Middle East. I won't tell you her name. Anyway, she's not active now. Okay, so guys, let me just summarize these tips. Okay, number one. Okay, how to succeed on the first try. First of all, you set a date, okay? Not just for taking the test. Don't tell yourself, October 1, I will take the test. No, October 1, I will pass the test. Okay? You use positive words, positive reinforcement, power words, claim it, ika nga. Secondly, it's not enough to set a date. Make sure that you're doing something every day, okay, to reach that goal. So, journal it. Okay, and I put some examples here. Thirdly, okay, take a look at one of the most important devices you have right now, your phone. Okay, use your phone properly. How many good IELTS apps do you have? So you can install IELTS Prep, English Core. You should have a good dictionary, and you should be using your voice recorder for speaking practice and listening to it. And then eliminate distractions. First, from your phone, all of the useless stuff there, you take them out, you delete them. You can always install them later when you pass the test. Okay, you have friends who don't inspire you. If it doesn't inspire joy, remove it. Ika nga. Okay, tanggalin nyo. Okay, eliminate distractions, or maybe you ask your family members to help you concentrate. Okay, if they're always bugging you, tell them what you're doing is for their future also. Have a serious talk with them. Okay, and finally, choose your mentors. All right, so that's for the first part of my hindi naman lecture, of my sharing today. Do you have any questions or concerns or comments about it before I move on to the IELTS related stuff? Sige lang, you can turn on your microphones, or you can type it in the chat box before I move on to these. Okay, I'll give you 30 seconds to type. Can I take a minute? I'm just gonna drink some water. 1 minute lang po, no? While you're typing. I need some water for my throat. Thank you. See you in a minute. That was refreshing. All right. So you can ask questions anytime. All right. So let's move on to the more IELTS specific tips. Okay. I know you've heard a lot of people, teachers talk about listening, reading, writing, and speaking, but I will tell you some things that you might not have heard before. Don't worry, it's not gonna be about the format. All right. It's gonna be about something different. And okay, no problem. No questions means I'm being very clear or very vague. Either way. So, listening po. Bless you. Gesundheit. Okay. Mute. I'm just gonna mute all of you. And you might have accidentally pressed it. Ayan. You can unmute yourselves if you want to ask questions, right? Listening. Okay. 16 years of teaching people how to improve in their listening test. What can I tell you that you haven't heard about before? So you already know the format. You already know, look at the questions first. You already know, learn the British accent. Okay, they don't pronounce their R's. You already know that they will always paraphrase the questions. Okay, they will use different words in the recording and on the test paper. Alam na natin yan eh, that information is widespread. We already know that. Pero here's a tip for people who are trying to self-study their way, okay, for the listening test. Okay. First of all, how many listening drills have you done for the past week? Or maybe for the past month? Or maybe for the past 10 days? Okay. If you don't know, then you're not being effective. You should know how many. Okay. So kailangan track your progress. Similar to what I said earlier. Track your progress. And then do you actually know the scores that you got for each one? Okay. Is it going on an upward trend or a downward trend, or is it just steady? So what's the general trend for your scores in listening? If you don't know, you have to be more obsessive about it. Okay, please. And you can do this in your journal. Ayan, no? It ties in with the tips, with the tip from the previous page, diba? Use your journal. Okay? Ayan po, June 19, I scored 31 out of 14, Cambridge 12, listening test 2. Tapos pwede mo lagay, yay! It's it's the first time I exceeded 30 points. Yeah, you can make it personal to make it more fun. Okay, give yourself little rewards like these. Okay, so first of all, track your progress. Secondly, secondly, are you really studying or are you just doing drills? A lot of people think, ito no, I really realized this today, this morning, because I had a student who wanted me to teach her listening. And then I realized that she wasn't really studying. She told me she was studying. Okay. Pero actually, hindi pala. Okay. What do I mean? A lot of people, okay, at home and in review centers, they do a listening drill. They listen to it once, and then they check how many correct answers they got, and then they move on to the next drill. They do the same thing. They move on to the next drill. They do the same thing. Guys, do you know how many times you should be listening to a listening drill? Okay, can I take a survey? Let's guess. Okay, stuck with the same score. Sige, after today, it will go up, Fei. Okay, tell me kung effective to. So can you tell me, how many times should you be listening to one recording? Kunwari, Cambridge 10 Test 2. How many times should you listen to that? Just type your answer in the chat box. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ilang beses ba dapat? Some of you said once. Okay. How about the others? 3 times? Twice a day? Twice a day to the same recording or to a different test? Ma'am Mona, what do you mean by that? Dalawang magkaiba in one day, different test? Oh, once. Okay. Buti na lang nakinig kayo ngayon. Okay? You should be listening to these recordings 3 times. Same recording. I'm not telling you to do three drills a day. No, naku, hindi po, hindi po. 3 times. And you can do them on separate days if you want to. Okay? But if you just do it once, nagsasayang kayo ng effort. Sayang yung time nyo, sayang yung pera ninyo, and you're not learning as much as you can. You're not squeezing everything that you can get out of it. Okay? Bakit tatlo? Let me explain it to you. Okay? If you just listen to the recording once and then check your scores and then go to the next one, then you didn't really learn anything. You just took a test. That's just called testing. That's just called drilling. Okay? Ano nangyari if you do it like that? You just became familiar with the format of the test. That's it. It's still helpful. Yeah, it's better than nothing. Okay, but after some time, what will happen if you do it that way? Your score will plateau. Ano ibig sabihin ng plateau? Plateau, pinggan, plateau. Plateau means, yeah, there might be slight fluctuations, but it's flat. It's steady na lang na ganun. 30, 31, 32, 31, 32, 30, 31, 30, 31, 30, 31, 32, 30, 31. Okay, sabi nga ni Faye. Okay, maybe it's because you're not maximizing it. So the first time that you listen to it is when you do the drill. The second time is when you study. Do you know that when you do drills, okay, what's important is you study your wrong answers. Okay, you shouldn't pay attention to the correct answers because you already got them. What you should focus on, okay, are your wrong answers, because the wrong answers, these are the things that help you learn. Don't be afraid of making mistakes, because these are the things that you can use. Okay, as long as you don't repeat them. So, so the second time you listen to the recording again, and then try to listen really clearly. You can rewind it if you want. Why was my answer wrong? Why is this the answer? Ayun ang mahirap, because usually it's very hard to self-study that. That's when you're gonna need someone to tell you. Fortunately, I've seen some sites where they put explanations to the answers. Okay, you can try googling some of them. Okay, so paano ba tong tanong dito from Manilyn? Is it like pre-test and post-test? The middle is where you correct your answer. Pre-test, post-test. No, no, not really. The first time that you do it, you're already testing yourself. So you answer 1 to 40. The second time, 'di ba? Balikan mo yung mga mali mo. Tapos pakinggan mo, bakit blue yung sagot? Bakit hindi red? Why is the answer 10 p.m. and not 6 a.m.? Bakit kaya? Make sure that you understand why you made that mistake, and you can do that by listening. And guys, tip, you can actually read the transcripts. Okay? Especially the Cambridge listening test. Meron po mga transcripts yan. It means naka-type out. Because if you really cannot understand the accent, or if it's too fast for you, then it might be better, okay, to learn listening through reading, because there's actually a connection between these skills here. So tanong, have you ever read a transcript for a listening test? Kung hindi ba, that might be what you need to do para tumas yung score nyo by a few points. There are transcripts. Okay? Next, the third time that you listen to the recording, okay, yung pangatlong beses, this is what most people never do. The third time, just listen to it. Don't even take a look at the questions. Just listen to the recording. You can do that while driving. Okay. Well, okay, you might get distracted pala. So make sure you're safe if you want to do that. All right. But if you're the passenger, you can easily do that. You can do that while you're commuting, public transportation. Instead of sleeping, which is not safe, or you might get robbed, alam nyo, okay? Instead of playing those useless computer games on your phone, maybe you can listen to it and then just enjoy it as something, as entertainment, as something to listen to, not as a test. Wag nyo nang titingnan yung questions. Papakinggan nyo lang, kasi that's when you will really hear the pronunciation and the emotions and the nuances and the inflections that they use. Okay? So, pangatlong beses po. Sige, unang beses, do the drill. Second time, you listen to the recording while checking. You can use the transcripts too. And finally, okay, you listen to it as is, not as a test, but as entertainment. Don't even read the questions. You know what? Kung nahirapan kayong matulog, you can even use these recordings to put you to sleep. Di ba nakakaantok? Oh, nahirap talaga ako matulog eh. Pag gabi, nahirapan ako matulog. Naku, mag-play ka ng listening test. Tignan natin kung di ka antok eh. Section 1. In this section, you will hear two friends talking about, look at questions 1 to 4. Naku, tingnan natin kung di kayo antukin doon. Okay. Oh, wala pang 1 minute. Wala pang 1 minute. Wala pang 1 minute, tulog ka na. Oo nga, sir. So, you can do that. Or, you can play, instead of playing music is nice, but will it help you pass your test? So, maybe habang naglalaba kayo, yung nagugas ka ng pinggan, yung mga trabahong panglalaki, no, tayong mga macho, naglalaba, nagugas ng pinggan, o kaya nagwawalis, pinapaliguan yung mga aso, di play mo yung play the listening, play the recording for the listening test. Play it in the background because even if you're not actively listening to it, your brain actually learns because you're still listening, at some level eh. So, na-try nyo na bang gawin yun? Hindi pa siguro, no? I told you, you're gonna be hearing things for the first time. Bakit? Wala, naisip ko lang sila and I've tried them on myself before I teach them to you. All right? Next tip for listening. Listening. How will you learn to understand these things if you keep on watching TV Patrol, 24 Oras, T3, uh, Tulfo in Action? I don't know the exact titles actually. Okay. So, are you really trying to learn or sinasabi nyo lang? Okay, if you really want to understand these, these people, these speakers, okay, then you will listen to the boring stuff. Ano yung mga yan? Yung mga Discovery Channel, mga BBC, okay? What are you watching on Netflix? Kasi I'm singling out Netflix kasi a lot of us are using this app right now, this service, okay? If you want some suggestions, ito yung mga masasuggest ko sa inyo, no? Nice shows to listen to so that you can learn how they speak. One of my favorites is Dr. Dr. Martin. I don't know if it's still available. I think tinanggal na yung seasons 1 to 8 but season 9 is still there. Maybe you can do something to watch the other episodes. It's quite good. Okay, especially if you're also taking the other test, the OET for instance, magandang panoorin to. Next, you can search for the series called Explained. Ang dami niyan. Okay, iba-iba. History explained, sex explained, the mind explained, history explained. Madami po siya. So, the Explained series. Why am I suggesting this? Because the kind of language that they use in this show is actually at the level of the Ielts test. Ka-level sila ng Ielts. Also, the information that you will get, you can use for your speaking test and for your, believe it or not, for your writing test. If they ask you about your favorite historical event, you just watch one of those episodes in history. Okay, the title is History 101, I think. Okay, if they ask you about a historical person, okay, just watch one episode, you will have an answer for the test. Okay, if they ask you about a place you'd like to visit, definitely, okay, one of these episodes will be able to give you an answer to that one so that you don't need to be surprised. Okay, so yan, ang dami niyan. The Crown, okay, the Crown is useful for what? For maybe vocabulary building. Okay, and of course learning the accents, but syempre it's not as academic, no, as the Ielts is because the language of Ielts is more on the academic side. The Crown is more, medyo high level yung English nila, and some of it is archaic, medyo luma na because it's about something that happened decades ago. Although the latest season si Diana na yata eh. Okay, wala pa next season, we're all eagerly waiting for it. Okay, so ayan po. Pwede niyong panoorin. So stop listening to the useless stuff. Okay? Pwede naman kayo manood ng Tulfo pag pag successful na kayo. Oh, we're waiting for the Crown. It's quite nice. I enjoy watching. Yun ang namin nightly dates namin ng wife ko. Nagmo-movie date kami gabi-gabi. Minsan wala siyang nagagawa sa trabaho niya dahil kinukulit ko siya manood. Yan. So, that's it for listening. All the other tips naman, you probably got it from websites, from YouTube, from other teachers. Pero para sa akin, yun po. Maybe you're not really studying the listening drills. You're just drilling them. Nagdrills lang kayo, hindi kayo nag-aaral. Start studying them. Okay? And the best ones to listen to would be the Cambridge series because there are what, less than 10 people that they use for recording these. Mapapansin nyo, merong dalawang lalaki doon at isang babae. They always appear in all of the Cambridge tests. Okay, maybe I can point them out to you if I get invited to another session. Okay, I'm gonna prepare those voices para ma-memorize niyo yung boses nila. Kasi they're also the same voices they use in OET. Kaya alam ko Parang, oy, I know this person. Okay? Yung mga voice talent, they use the same voice talents. Okay? Questions so far? Comments for listening? Mhm. By the way, if you have questions, pwede rin, no? Kunwari, gusto nyo itanong, pwede po bang all caps sa listening? Oh, pwede. Sasagutin ko naman yan. Oh, I don't know some of these. Planets series, okay? Ano pa ba yung iba nyong suggestion? The Crown and Unsolved Mysteries. Oh, I haven't seen this one. Okay, I'm gonna look for it later. Thank you very much for the suggestions. Now, for reading, ayan, may mga tanong yata. Mhm. Do you know how many seconds we have to read the question between each section in the listening test? Okay, the application I'm working with, okay, says you have some time to read the questions, but it starts hindi pwede. There should be, there should be some time. It's usually a minimum of 15 seconds if the questions are short. Okay? And it can be as long as 30 seconds. Kunwari, section 4 ng listening test, the most difficult question, and then they play 10 items dire-diretso, di ba? Usually, mga 30 seconds yan. So it can be 15 to 30 seconds. Okay? Um, if the recording said that you have some time and then it started right away, then the technician made a mistake. They weren't able to put in the gaps. It happens, guys. Remember, these things are made by people. People are not perfect. Okay? So ano na lang, you just pause it yourself, you time it for about at least 15 seconds. Pero please no, okay, you don't have 1 minute to read the questions. It's between 15 to 30, not more than 30. In fact, if you're just looking at kunwari 4 to 6 items lang, you should only be giving yourself like about maybe 15 seconds for that one. Okay, if it's 10 items, then 30 seconds would be okay. Okay. And thank you. So each item, meron ka lang mga 3 seconds. So that would be a good rule, no? Rule of thumb. Okay? 5 items times 3, 15 seconds. 7 items times 3, 21. So you give yourself 20 seconds. Ayan, that's an easy way to estimate it. Sir, 3 seconds per question? Yeah, because you're just reading them. Your eyes are faster than your mouth. Okay? Next, for reading. Okay? Tips ko sa reading. Again, you probably know all about the format already. So I won't waste your time teaching you that. Sayang lang yung oras natin. Okay? But for the reading test, you're probably not maximizing those drills na naman Okay? It's the same as listening How many drills did you do last week? If you don't know, then you're not being effective. So how many hours did you spend there? Secondly, do you even know the scores that you got? Okay, hopefully yes. Hopefully you're recording them. Okay, and finally, are you just doing drills or are you actually improving your language skills? Nagdi-drills ka lang ba or are you studying? Because doing drills is not the same as studying. A lot of the people that I encounter, nagdi-drills lang sila, hindi sila nag-aaral. Okay? Because, okay, they do a Cambridge 8 test, reading test 3. Okay? Then they take a look at the answer key. Naku, naka 21 lang ako, malas. Sige, gagawa uli ako. I'm gonna do another drill. Hopefully, I get 31. Dude, it's not gonna happen. Okay? Or it might happen, but it's gonna be luck. So, do you want to pass the test because you're lucky? Or do you want to pass the test because you have the skills, because you are worthy of it? Kasi magaling ka talaga. So, gusto mo bang pumasa sa test dahil sinuwerte ka o dahil magaling ka? Siyempre, gusto natin magaling. Okay? So, ano tayo magiging magaling? Instead of moving on to another drill, study it first. And which ones do we study? The wrong items. If you got the correct answer, don't waste your time studying it. Skip na yan. Ba't mo ba sasayangin yung oras mo? Skip it. Study your wrong answers. So make sure that you know what the right answer is. And then, bakit kaya ako nagkamali? You need to identify why you made mistake. And if you cannot identify bakit mali yung sagot mo, kunwari, hindi, tingin ko talaga letter A yung sagot eh. Bakit kaya letter C? Hindi A talaga. Maybe you need somebody to explain it to you. Maybe you ask one of your group members here in the Pinoy Nurses Group Facebook page, diba? You're a community. Use the power of community. Tulungan tayo. Okay? Anyway, may tanong lang dito. For listening, is it okay to guess the answer for the number? We tried answering since the listening part cannot be replayed. Yes, of course. Never leave blanks. It's better to guess. In fact, even for reading, okay, even for writing and speaking, never leave blanks. Okay. Of course, we should avoid guessing, but if that's your only choice, it's better to guess than to leave it blank. If you don't have an answer, then you have 0% of getting that point. If you guess, maybe you have 1%. 1% is better than zero. And honestly, some of the items are guessable in listening and reading. Sometimes I can answer them before listening to the recording or before reading the text. Bakit? Sanay na eh. I've done so many of them, and a lot of my teachers can actually guess maybe two or three of the items even before taking a look at the drill, listening man yan or reading. So yes po. Yes, ang sagot dyan, manghula kayo. Also, if you leave it blank, it might cause you problems because I've seen this several times with many students. No, they don't know the answer to number 7. Okay, they leave it blank. They go to number 8. Yung sagot sa number 8, nasulat nila sa 7. They wrote by mistake. They wrote the answer to number 8 in number 7 because they left number 7 blank. That's why you should never leave blanks. Answer everything. Hello to our 113 FB Live viewers and 44 Zoom participants. Okay, here's another question from Samya. Can I use this format 25 July or 25th July? Good news, IELTS right now is very open to these formats. The best answer to this is you write it as they said it. For listening, okay? How they said it, that's how you write it. If they said 25th July, you write 25th July. If they say 25 July, you write 25 July. But right now, okay, because I attend training with examiners, British Council and IDP every year. I've been attending for the past 15 years. Every year, you can ask them. Okay, they're very accepting of format. So pwedeng July 25, 25th July, July 25th. You can even write 25/7 or 7/25 and they will accept it. Okay, so Somya, I hope I answered that question. Thank you for the question. Okay, and more questions, please. So for the reading test, you should be reading it how many times? 3 times. The first time when you do the drill. Second time, okay, when you rationalize your answers. And how much time should you spend on studying your wrong answers? As much time as you did on the drill. You know what? If it takes you 1 hour, then that 1 hour is well spent. Okay. And then the third time that you do it, okay, don't even read the questions. Yes, you should read your reading passages a third time. Pero this time, okay, you're not doing it to answer questions. You're doing it to improve your language. Okay, you're doing it to look at the sentence structure because the better you become at reading, the better writer that you also become. Okay, you're doing that. You're reading it for enjoyment for the third time, no questions, because you're just learning the vocabulary. Make sure that you have your dictionary with you. You see a word that you don't know, Google it. Okay, Google na lang. Yan. Okay. So have you been doing that? Most of the students I know, they just read it once and then they discard it. I've even seen students when we still had the face-to-face classes. I've seen some students leaving their reading drills in the review center on purpose, or they put it in the trash can. My God, you paid money for that. Okay, tinatanong ko sila, ba't tinapon nyo? Sir, kasi naka-10 lang ako, na-frustrate ako. If you only got 10 for that test, then you should take it home and study it. You're not here to do drills, you're here to study. Okay, that's why I told you don't self-studying is okay for some people, but there are some things that you will not learn by yourself. Man is a social animal. Let's take a look at some of the comments. Okay, so yeah, no problem. Here's another question from LV. Sir, how about numbers like 3,000 to 4,000, 3 to 4,000, something like that? Which one is correct? First of all, you write it the easiest way possible. Listening and reading, no. Ito po. Don't give yourself a difficult time. Okay? You can just write, kunwari, 12. You can just write 1, 2 instead of writing TWELVE. You're wasting your time. Sayang oras nyo. Numbers na lang. Okay? 3,000. You just write 3000 instead of THO. Ang tagal. You do it the easiest way possible. So kung digits yan, digits na lang. Okay? Numbers, 3 to 4,000. Okay, LV, yun, I don't know if I understand your question correctly, pero ganun lang po, no? You do it the easiest way possible. Okay? 3 to 4,000, 3-4,000. Ito po, mas okay yung dash. Again, you do it the easiest way possible, no? Dash na lang, pwede na yan. Okay? From Roy, true, false, not given po. Quite tricky between false and not given. You're not the only one who says that. Okay? Oh, mahirap dyan yung yung false tsaka yung not given. Ganito lang yan, no? Ganito. You only answer false. You answer false if you can actually find a statement on the passage that contradicts the item. Kunwari, number 7, sabi niya, most elephants are Asian elephants. Obviously, kinuha ko to sa reading drill. Most of the elephants in the world are Asian elephants. Is that true, false, or not given? True yan. Kailangan may prueba ka. Okay? If you answer false, you also need proof. Okay? When do you answer not given? Well, when they don't say anything about it or if the information is incomplete, then it's not given. Okay? So I think it's better if we have an actual test paper here, no? So I can show this to you. Pero ganito lang yan. For the reading test, it's one of my main tips actually. Don't base your answers. Don't base it on your own understanding. Okay? Because your understanding is faulty. Anong gagawin? Base your answers on the text. Okay? Let me explain. Because I've been teaching for 16 years, this is what I always hear from students. So tatanungin ko, oh ma'am, what's your answer for number 16? Sir, it's false. Okay, why did you answer false? Sir, kasi parang sinabi niya. Yun yung dating sa akin, parang sinabi niya. Guys, hindi pwede yung parang-parang. You tell me, in which paragraph did you get the answer? Which sentence and what was the keyword? What were the synonyms or paraphrasing that they did? Okay? So guys, ganito lang yan. No? Kung napansin nyo, if you hire a tutor, a teacher, and then they give you a reading drill, then they just tell you the answers, and then yung explanation nila, hindi ma'am, kasi true, because parang ganito, parang ganyan yung ini-imply niya. That is not good teaching. A good teacher will be able to tell you exactly, okay, nasan yung sagot. O sige nga, sige, this is impromptu, but let me try to find an example since you requested for it, okay? Mahilig talaga ako sa biglaan. Sige. Let me take a look at, wait lang po, I'm gonna stop sharing for a while, okay? Because I need to open something. So let me take, yes, what's that po? Okay, accidentally. All right, let me find a reading drill. Okay, so here's the master list of our drills. And then, ano pa yung, let's choose one of them. Ito. So I'm using, this is from our website, okay? And also we have drills here. Okay, the Department of Ethnography. Ethnography. Next page. Next page. Ayun, sakto. True, false, and not given. Sakto. So you know that your teacher is good if they do it this way. No? I'm gonna show you how I teach it. Pinamigay ko na lahat. Okay. Let me just resize and turn off my camera. There you go. So I hope you can see my screen. There we go. Okay. So the way that we teach here is we put the text on top or maybe the questions. Ayan. Tapos sa baba naman yung isang part. Okay. Oops. Resize dahil walang preparasyon. Biglaan lang. Okay, let's take a look at some of the questions here at the bottom. True, false, and not given. Right, true if the statement is true according to the passage, false according to the passage, not given in the passage. Okay, so number one, the 20th century collections come mainly from mainstream societies such as US and Europe. So this is the first question, right? Where do you find the answer? Usually you will find it in the first or maybe second paragraph. So I'm not going to look at the third or the fourth or the fifth. You're not going to find it there. Okay. There we go. Baba natin to. Yeah. So let's read the first paragraph. Okay. So you can read it to yourselves very quickly. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mainstream societies. Okay. Ah. Okay, the answer is there. So can you please type in your answer? Tignan natin kung makukuha natin. So do you think it's true, false, or not given? Number one. Mhm. All right. So what do you think is the answer? Let's see. Okay, some of you answered false. All right. Okay, false, 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 false. Oh, let's check Tama ba yung sagot ninyo? False nga ba yung sagot? Here's the answer key. The answer to number one is false. Okay, according to the answer key, pwedeng F. Actually, hindi. Okay, if you answer F, it's not gonna be acceptable. Why? Because according to the instructions, you have to write true, false, or not given. You can only write T or F or NG if they tell you that you can do that. Pero tignan yung instructions. True, false, not given. So why is it false? Okay? So let's take a look at the keywords. Yan. Kasing sabi niya dito, okay, sabi dito, the 20th century collection. So you look for 20th century. Oh, nasan yun? Here we go, 20th century collection. Okay? The primary focus, okay, mainly. Is it true that they come from the US and Europe? No. Okay, they come from small scale societies. Okay? Yeah, they mentioned the Americas here and Europe, but that's not the basis of your sentence. You have to find the words that they are paraphrasing. So ganito dapat kayong tinuturuan. Why? It should be text-based because it's a reading test. Okay, don't base it on your impressions. Okay, don't base it on your hunches, you base it on the evidence. Ganun po ang reading. That's how you get a perfect score. Okay? I got a perfect score the very first time I tried it. Okay, my first official IELTS test, 2006, perfect. Actually, all of my tests 9 yung yung reading ko. Why? Because I base it on the text. Okay, base it on evidence. All right. How much time do I have left? I have 30 minutes. Okay. Next po, for writing. Best tips for writing. Again, you probably know the format already. Okay, so I'm not gonna focus on that one. Let me just focus on the things that you need, that most teachers or videos are not telling you. Okay. For writing task one, general, wait lang. Do we have general training candidates or are you all academic? You're mostly nurses, right? So I'm guessing that most of you are taking the academic test. Okay. Pero sige, some of you might be taking GT. So let me give some tips there. Okay. Number one, for GT. Your writing task one is letter writing, right? Write a letter. Okay. So um please make sure that you're writing a real letter. Okay, yeah, you follow the formats taught to you by the teacher. Okay, like use the full block format, leave spaces in between the elements. Don't write one paragraph only. You should be writing about 4 paragraphs for your letter. It should have dear Mr. Brown, then your intro, 2 body paragraphs, concluding paragraph, then yours sincerely, then your name. No need for the signatures, no need for addresses or dates. Okay, typical. Okay, but remember, when you write, you should have a real person here. Okay, a real person that you're writing to. Because I check a lot of letters and sometimes they get low scores because they are so unrealistic. Okay, they're using the kind of language that you would actually never say to another person. Or they're saying it in such a way that it's unnatural. Bakit? Because in their minds, they're just thinking of it as a test. Okay, so GT1. Okay, what do you need to do? Okay, you imagine writing it. Okay, write it to a real person. Of course, they're not gonna read it. Okay, but if you do it this way, okay, nag-feedback. Let me just mute. There you go. If you write it this way, then the language will be more natural. You will probably get the correct tone. Okay, and it will result in in a higher score. Okay. By the way, the best word count. Okay, di ba they require you to write at least 150 words, right? Okay, but according to the head researcher, okay, of British Council Hong Kong, which is the regional office, okay, people who get the highest scores they write between 170 and 180 words. Okay, if you write like, of course, just exactly 150, you tend to get a lower score. If you exceed like 180, so umabot ka na ng 200 or more than 200, tendency is the score goes down. It's shaped like a bell curve. 150, 160, 170, 180, 190, 200, 200 plus. So bell curve siya. Okay? Well, same thing with writing task 2 since I already said it. Optimum number between 270 and 280. Again, if you write more than 280, mga 300 or more, then the tendency is your score goes down. And I have proof of this because during one of my tests, okay, I wrote 400 words for writing task 2. It was computer based kasi, so I was faster, no? 400 words for writing task 2 and 250 words for writing task 1. I wrote a total of 650. That was my lowest score. I got 7.5 in writing. Okay, usually my writing is about 8.5. Okay, that's when I follow the numbers. Pero nung mahaba yung sinulat ko, my score really went down. Okay, so wala, may preba talaga. So just because you wrote something that's quite lengthy doesn't mean that your score will increase. So be careful about that. So going back to the GT writing task one, guys, imagine writing it to a real person. In that way, you'll be using the correct and more appropriate language, more realistic way of expressing yourself. Okay. For academic writing task one, oh man, there are so many types. They can give you maps. So there's a certain way of writing a report about maps. They can also give you like flow charts, and there's a separate technique for writing about flow charts. Okay. Um, they might also have like bar graphs, pie charts, tables, and line graphs. Okay, you can actually group them together. They can either be static charts or dynamic charts, and again, there's a different method of writing about them. So my tip is read a lot of good examples. Okay, there. You where do you get good examples? You go to the official sources. So British Council websites, IDP websites, IELTS.org websites. Dun nyo kunin. Because there are so many websites claiming that, okay, this is a band score 9. You know what? I was browsing Facebook one day and I saw this post by this guy. He said, this is a band score 9 essay. And then an examiner actually commented. Sabi nung, well, at first, that person didn't reveal na examiner siya. She just said, no, sir, this is not a 9. If you take a look at the grading system, this is just 6.5. It will get 6 in task achievement, 6 in cohesion and coherence, 7 in grammar, 7 in lexical resource. And then the guy started arguing with him, and then the commenter said, well, I'm a former IELTS examiner, so I think I know better than you. Okay, so be careful. Okay, be careful about all the fake news. Okay, make sure that you're reading from official sources. And one more thing, learn, okay, two things pala. Learn how to write an overview for each of the charts. That's the first tip. Okay. Second tip natin for writing task one is, okay, oops, that happened. Ayan. Make it easy to follow. Okay, make your report easy to follow. Why am I saying this? I've seen a lot of reports. I check them almost on a daily basis. Okay, and sometimes it's so hard to understand the reports. Guys, the point of this test is to test your communication skills, how good a speaker you are, how good a writer you are. If you're the only one who can understand what you wrote, then don't expect a high score in the IELTS test. A good writer will make it look easy. The best comment for me that I get from my students is when they say, sir, ganun lang. Ang dali naman. When you write it, you make it look so easy because that means you're really good. I actually don't like it when people say, sir, ang galing ng pagkasulat. I don't know if I'll be able to do this one because if people say that, then you're not an effective teacher because you're not able to transfer your skills and you're not able to make them believe in themselves that they can do it. Okay? So guys, no, take a look at your reports. Will an outsider, somebody who doesn't know anything about the IELTS, will an outsider be able, okay, to follow your report? In fact, you can do this test. Okay, I don't know if you've done it before. Okay, how do you know if it's good writing? You can do a reverse process. Okay, or a reverse activity if you want to call it that. Okay, how do you do this? So you read the report and then you draw the chart based on the report. So don't look at the chart, baliktad siya. You read the sample report and then based on the sample report, you draw the chart. And then you look at the original chart. If you're able to draw it based on their explanations, then it's a very good report. Okay. I'm guessing that none of you have ever tried it. Okay. According to our moderators, we have like 126 on FB and 42 Zoom participants. So out of the 160 plus, I'm guessing nobody's done that. Okay, so why don't you try it? Okay, you read the report and then draw the chart based on the text lang, based on the report lang. Okay, it's fun actually. Try to do it. Okay, next, or maybe if you want to test your own writing, you get one of your friends to do it. Besho, ito yung report ko sa IELTS writing test one. Try mo nga drawing yung chart. Okay, kung hindi man, if they cannot even get halfway, with your descriptions, then maybe you need to rewrite your report, rewrite your task one, right? And finally, for writing task two, so it doesn't matter if you're taking the academic test or the general training test. For writing task two, preparation, okay, preparation is key. Okay, a lot of people after reading the question they go directly into writing, and that causes the problem. Okay, you know the perfect distribution of time. Ganito po I'm gonna give you a breakdown. You have 40 minutes, right? Okay, so when you practice, you monitor your time. My suggestion is, okay, you spend 5 minutes for what we call pre-writing. Okay, what is pre-writing? Preparing your outlines plus your vocabulary. Vocabulary. Okay, and then you spend the next 5 minutes just writing your intro. Yes, the intro is short. It's only 2 to 3 sentences, but you should spend 5 minutes on it. Why? Because it's critical. Tanggalin na nga natin 2 minutes. I'm just gonna write the numbers. Okay, there you go. And then the next 20 minutes, so 10 minutes each, you use this for writing your body paragraphs. Okay, so ilan na yan? 30. So meron pang 5 minutes and another 5 minutes. What do you do for these? The next 5 minutes, you write your conclusion. And remember, 5 minutes is more than enough. Why? Because the conclusion is what? 1, 2 sentences. If you're writing a 3 sentence conclusion, it's too long. Shorten it. And finally, the last 5 minutes is you look for simple errors. Okay, nothing major. You don't need to erase whole sentences or whole paragraphs. Simple errors like wrong spelling, wrong tenses, illegible writing. Okay? Yung mga yan. Or if you still have time, maybe you can also take a look at the vocabulary. Can you find words that you use too much? Maybe you can replace them with a synonym. So I think this is the perfect breakdown, okay, of your time for writing task two. So guys, don't jump into it right away. Make sure that you prepare to write. All right? Would you like a demonstration? Gusto nyo ba ng okay? Sir, for writing, if they're asking for an opinion, where should we put it? In the body or in the conclusion? Thank you. You should put it in the intro. According to the IELTS grading system, okay, you will get a 7 if the opinion is clear all throughout the essay. So it means it's clear from the very start. And then what you write in the body supports your opinion. And then you reiterate your opinion in the conclusion. So saan isusulat? Actually, sa buong essay. Okay, you want a demo? Somebody send me an IELTS Test 2 question. Any question? Put it in the chat box. I'll demo you yung first 5 minutes what I do personally and what I do for my students. Well, I have some pero they're confidential because these are the files of my students. So I'd prefer someone just send me an IELTS question. It can be a new one, an old one, don't really care. I'll show you on screen kung paano ko siya atakihin. First 5 minutes. Sige po, I'll wait. While you're typing, I'm gonna take a drink, okay? Oh, wala. For those who've taken the test, if you want me to answer your test questions, pwede. Sige. Kahit ano. basta IELTS question, writing task 2. Okay, you're still opening your files. I'm gonna give you time. It would have been easier if I actually prepared one for you, diba? Pero it's this way is better, so you can find out if your teacher is good, if they can do it on the spot. It's easy to teach if it's on a PowerPoint presentation, but if it's on the spot, then it's gonna be more effective. Okay. Some questions first. Sir, do maps, graphs, and pie charts only appear in academic writing? Yes. For general training, it's only letters. Letters lang. That's it. It can be a formal letter, personal letter, or semi-formal. Okay, thank you, sir or ma'am Ramen. I'm gonna put it on screen para makita ng lahat. So here's a sample question. Sabi dito, some people think that labels at food. Let's modify this a bit, no? Some people think that food product labels, there you go, should have detailed information. To what extent do you agree or disagree? What do you think are the information that should be included? Okay, this is interesting. So what I do here is, first of all, I prepare my vocabulary. Okay, and then I do my outline. Or vice versa. They don't need to go in this order. Pwede nyo unahin yung outline nyo. Some people are more comfortable with that. In fact, I might do that. I'm gonna write the skeleton now. Okay. Here you go. Of course, this will contain my introduction plus my thesis statement or my opinion. Let's call it thesis statement. Wag na nga. Para madali. Opinion na lang. And my opinion is, please avoid saying agree or disagree in your introduction because you should avoid copying the words in the original question. You can simply say, Sherry May, can you remove that? You can simply say, ako na lang. You can simply say yes or no. Okay. So I believe this should be done. Okay. This is desirable. Okay. Or this should be, this should be standard. This should be the standard. Yes. Detailed labels. In short, yes. Para lang madali. Gawin natin yes. Okay. Next, I need to explain my opinion. Explanation of opinion. Secondly, what kind of information? Okay. So, which information? Sulat ko na lang info. Ayan, and then I can write my conclusion. Conclusion. There you go. So I'm planning like 4 paragraphs for this one. It can be as long as 5, pero I think 4 is perfect for this question. Okay, and before I put my like detailed arguments here, okay, I'm gonna go to my vocabulary. So ano susulat ko dito sa vocab? Just take a look at the questions and then think of the words that you need to replace. What are these? Some people think food product labels na lang, should have detailed information. Which information should be included? Yan, okay na yan. Then think of 2 or 3 replacements, 2 or 3 synonyms. So some people say many, a lot. Okay? Aray ko. Ouch. Ow, ow, ow. Let's mute all of you. There you go. Okay. So some, ano magandang pamalit dito? There are a number of people, men and women. Ano pa? Individuals. Think. Think. They argue. They believe. Pwede rin namang say, kaso say is a little bit, it's a little bit basic. Okay, think, argue, believe. You can say opine, although it's a little bit difficult to use, so I rarely use it also. Paborito ko believe. Okay, kasi Ateneo, believe. Okay. So pwede na yan. Okay, labels. Anong pwede natin ilagay sa labels? Some people think that food product labels, actually it's related to uh, information. Okay, so pwede pala natin silang pagsamahin. So food product labels, food product information. Anything else? Do you have suggestions? Mm-hmm. Uy, social media. Oh, madalas na tanong yan. Local language. Ah, hindi. When you say brands, ito yung name nung nung owner nung company or nung product. Pero when you say labels, we're talking about ito, ito nakadikit usually. So you can say, sige, you can say packaging, okay? You can say information, okay? You can say data, pwede na rin yan. Kung di nyo talaga, if you cannot think of a totally different word, you can just change the form of labels. You can turn it into labeling. Okay? Okay, so info labels, ayan. Okay na yan. So at least you'll be able to increase your score for, what you call this, for lexical resource and avoid copying the words. Okay, so explanation ng opinion ko. Why it should be standard? Because it affects the health of people. Okay, because uh, misinformation, misinformation can cause obesity. Oh, mataas na agad yung score mo. Oh. Obesity. Ano pa? Malnourishment. Although obesity is also a form of malnourishment, by the way. Okay? Illnesses. Or even death. Okay? Ano pang pwede kong idagdag na high level terms dito? Deficiencies. Yun, no? Ganda. Yung palang paragraph na yun, band 7 na yung score mo sa vocab mo. Okay? So that's why I think it should be the standard. Okay? And what kind of information should be included? Of course, okay? Sugar, cholesterol, preservatives, ano pang kailangan include sa information diyan? mm, mga mga unnatural stuff, 'di ba? Mga synthetic ingredients. Okay? So, yung mga ito very important, guys. They should contain allergen information. Okay? Because some people can die if they, anaphylactic shock. Uy, pwede niyong lagay yun, no? You can include it in your vocabulary. Anaphylaxis. There you go. Okay? Ano pa ba? And then, expiration, syempre. And of course, the manufacture date. Parang baligtad, una muna yung manufacturer. So, manufacture and then expiration. There you go. So sorry, I don't have time to write the whole thing for you. Pero what I usually do with my students is we give them some for our tutorials. No, we don't ask our students to write during the tutorial with the teacher. Okay, before the tutorial, the student needs to have uploaded or sent us their their answer so that yung session natin would be all teaching. Okay, and then we work on vocabulary. Then we work on the outline, and then I check the essay, and then I give suggestions and rewrite it on the spot. Okay, it's a bit more difficult for teachers, but it also makes us better. Kasi we're forced to demonstrate to the students that we can actually write. So that's how we do it in my company. So if you need help, if self-study hasn't been working for you, you might want to take a look at our services po. Consider us. No? We might be able to help you finally achieve that score. Ayun. Okay? So, preparation, very important. Okay? Kailangan po, wag basta-basta magsusulat. Sir, what if I run out of time? Well, that's why you need to practice it. Because if you practice this one, it's natural. Guys, do you know that you can write 250 words in about 20 minutes? Mga 22, sige, maximum na mga 30 siguro. It's actually writable in 30. You don't need 40. Okay, it's just taking you 40 because you're not used to writing. Okay, so taking time to prepare will avoid you going off topic, and you might be able to, come up with better information. Okay, or better arguments. Kaya importante yung 5 minutes na yan. Pinoprocess na ng utak mo yung tanong eh. Right? Do I have time for speaking? Link to find. Okay, I think the admins can share that on your on your group page no sa Pinoy Nurses group. Okay. Okay, so I don't have it right. I need to finish now. I have like 4 minutes, I think. So speaking now. Speaking. Let's go to the last part. So best tips for speaking. Let me see. Madami. Okay. A lot of teachers will tell you practice, practice, practice is key. Okay? Pero I wouldn't give the same advice eh, kasi masyadong ano 'yun, masyadong catch all. Okay, practice. Pero what do you mean by practice? Okay? It needs to be more specific. Okay? So first of all, you should not practice once a week or once a month. It happens a lot here in the Philippines. Eh. So sometimes no, we have students they enroll for 3 months, and then I only see them twice. The first time 2 weeks before their test, second time 1 week before their test. Pero sinasabi naman namin sa kanila, you can actually have a speaking practice with us every day and do it early. Okay, so advice: fail early and fail often. A lot of people hate, okay, or avoid trying to have a practice session with a teacher kasi nahihiya. Guys, tanggalin niyo muna yung hiya ninyo. That will not help you. Okay, sir, because before I practice with you, I want to make sure I'm already good. Guys, how will you become good if you don't get feedback from somebody qualified to give you feedback? If you enroll in an institution for 1 month, make sure that you have your first speaking practice the very first week, not until the second week or the third week or the final week. No, have it as early as possible because then you will have a lot of time to fix your mistakes. If you have a practice session with me, for example, okay, and I tell you your mistakes, and it's already your test in 2 days, then it's not gonna help you. In fact, it might pull down your score. Why? Kasi po, you will lose confidence in yourself because you didn't have time to fix your errors. So it's better to have 3 weeks than 3 days to fix your errors. Okay. Secondly, I don't know why, but I noticed that Filipino test takers they only practice like 2 or 3 times. Okay, before they take the test. Guys, I also teach for a Korean company in Seoul. Okay, so marami akong side. And my Korean students, we practice speaking 3 times a week. Sorry, 3 times a week for 6 weeks before their test. So how many sessions yon? 6 times 3. 6, 12, 18. So we have a minimum of 18 speaking sessions. That's 18 hours of speaking before they take the test. Kaya pumapasa sila eh. Okay, and then in the Philippines, I have a student enrolls for 3 months. I only speak with him or her like once or twice. That's not effective. Okay, you want to improve speaking. You fail early, so practice early, and then you do it often. Hey, sir, I don't have time. Guys, if you don't have a choice, you can always print out sample IELTS speaking test and then just record yourself. Okay, maybe you use two voices. You use a big voice and your natural voice, the big voice to ask the questions, and then the small voice to answer. Pero don't let anyone hear it. Baka akalain nila, krung-krung, right? Okay? And then listen to the recording. That's the least you can do. Another thing that you can do, maybe you can invite people in this Facebook group. Okay, you can set like a speaking session and then ano lang, free speaking lang. Batuan lang kayo ng questions. It's always good to practice with other people. Then you can comment on each other. They do this a lot in other countries. They have small study groups. Okay. Finally, well, best people to practice with, professional IELTS teachers. Okay, so best tip ko sa speaking, you cannot learn speaking from watching videos. That's just listening. You cannot learn speaking from reading sample answers. That's reading. Best way to learn speaking, to make the mistakes yourselves. Open your mouth. Okay, speak. So ayan po, final questions na. I think it's past 11. I don't want to keep you. I have work tomorrow. So, dyan na lang tayo. Okay, admins, thank you for having me. I'm done. Any closing words?
Right. So thank you, Lee as always. So there's no discussion on Facebook. And
Mhm,
we'd like to take this opportunity to invite you again for another lecture. So
mhm.
hopefully by the time in the next lecture you'll be able to um, tackle those things that you've mentioned earlier. So
Yeah,
on
sure.
behalf,
Just tell me kung anong topic yung yung gusto ninyo. Tell me ahead of time so I can prepare something more specific for our audience.
all right.
Okay, marami
So
atang nagre-request ng ng reading. So, by the way, nakalimutan ko. If you need help, you want personal classes from me, or you want to try our services muna to compare it with your review center, ayan po yung numbers namin. Okay, would be willing to help you out. Sabihan nyo lang kami. Alright? Kung marami kayong natutunan ngayon, marami pa akong di nasabi. I could have gone on for 6 hours.
okay. So as always, thank you, Lee. So thank you very much for your expertise on how to make a study plan for our members. So
Yes.
we will we will contact you again for another lecture. So on behalf of the IELTS Filipino Nurses Group, so thank you very much, World English
Alright,
Reviews.
thank you very much. Hope you
Thank
learned.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.